10 years ago, a team of cave divers accidentally stumbled across a North Yorkshire cavern that was littered with human bones. It later turned out to be one of the most important archaeological finds for generations. I've been back with the same team a decade on as they return one of the human skulls to its final resting place. It's a landscape that's endured for thousands of years, a place of beauty and sometimes mystery for the generations who've lived among its hills and valleys. But every once in a while, the Yorkshire Dales gives up one of its secrets.
All my life really I'd wanted to find something like this, and we'd stumble into it quite by accident.
Suddenly saw some bones, and at first we just thought they were insignificant sheep bones. And then we realised that one of the skulls was human.
10 years ago, cave divers Phil Murphy and Andrew Goddard were exploring an underwater passage in North Yorkshire when they made an unusual discovery.
We hit a point where we couldn't get any further because it was choked with boulders. So we turned back and we started looking to see if there was a way on we could climb up. Andrew got up first, I suddenly got a call saying, "Phil, you better come up, it's full of bones." So I raced up to the top and yeah, there was all sorts of bits of human lying around. There was a part of a skull, there was a complete pelvis, there were long bones neatly stacked to one side.
With a team of experts from Sheffield University and followed by a BBC crew, they dug out the cave from the hillside and climbed down to investigate. What they found inside was an archaeological treasure trove and one of the most important cave discoveries ever made.
Have a look. Dead delicate, Andrew. I wonder if it's juvenile. Be very gentle when you're pulling it up, yeah?
The true prize, recovered from a perilous slope, was a human skull, entombed in the cave for over 1,000 years.
The most important thing we were able to recover from the cave was the skull, because you can say a lot more from a skull than you can from other parts of the skeleton. Not only in terms of knowing what the person looked like, but the estimating their age at death and determining whether they were a male or a female. These are important pieces of information.
Tests later showed it was a woman in her 40s, dating back to Roman times. The skull then went into storage at Sheffield University. But now, 10 years on, the same team want to return the skull to its final resting place and finish a story that began a decade ago. But first we need to find out a little bit more about the skull. Steph Davy-Jow is an expert in facial reconstruction and has worked with the British police and the FBI.
Just seems like a puzzle at first, which is challenging. But then as I start building up the features and adding things in, I have a person staring back at me.
Using the latest technology and computer modelling equipment, Steph will attempt to rebuild the missing tissues, muscles, bones and sinews to paint a picture of what this person would have looked like.
There is a degree of art in this process, but the end result should be something that anyone that would have known her would be able to recognise her. So a friend or a neighbour should be able to recognise her from this reconstruction.
While Steph gets on with that, the rest of the team moves to the Dales. Just getting to the site involves a long walk, carrying enough kit to excavate a cave entrance buried beneath layers of rock and mud for a decade.
Well, I'm pretty convinced it's this one.
Once located, it's time to start digging, and believe it or not, reopening caves isn't an entirely easy business. One of the things you can't count on in the Yorkshire Dales, of course, is the weather. If you look over there, we've got snow all over the mountains. That side, it's completely covered in mist, and here, well, it's chucking it down. It takes 5 hours of backbreaking work, but finally the massive boulder gives way and the narrow shaft to the cave below is exposed. It's then roped off, ready for our return in the morning. So here we are, day 2 at the dig. Got my hat, we're ready to go down and take a look. The shaft is a vertical 40-foot drop, barely wide enough to squeeze through at the top, which then opens into a large chamber. Where you land is on the very edge of a sheer drop that disappears into a black void. Well, here we are. Do you just want to explain what we've got around us?
Behind me here is a human skeleton lying on the floor in bits behind us. Behind there goes through to another larger chamber which contains
the human footprints and various bits of wolf or dog and all sorts of deer skeletons.
It's quite a weird place, isn't it?
It's quite atmospheric, isn't it? Very quiet, I think.
Mystery surrounds why the cave is full of bones. Some say it may be a tomb, others that bodies may have been thrown in for disposal. Tom Lord is an expert on Britain in the Roman times and has his own theories.
My guess would be that what we have here is a high-ranking woman. It's possible she is sacrificing herself to her traditional gods in an attempt to take off the burden of the Roman colonisation. The caves are perceived as entrances to the underworld. In the underworld there are the spirits of the dead, and she would be entering this realm and making herself an offering to the spirits of the underworld.
Just have a look at this. This is a human femur bone that they just found down the slope. I mean, it's really quite extraordinary just to hold it in your hands. And it fits like that.
Position them carefully.
With little ceremony, the delicate pieces of skull are unwrapped and carefully laid to rest under a shelf, where they'll hopefully remain protected and undisturbed for the rest of time.
Try and put it in some sort of order. You're going to pop it in the back there?
Yeah, I'll pop it in the back right next to the top of the cranium.
Oh, there we go, 10 years on.
Yep.
Back home.
These were once living, breathing human beings, and they do deserve a bit of respect. It's good to put them back.
Yeah, I think, you know, they can finally rest in peace.
All that remains is for the team to climb out and reseal the cave, once again restoring a tomb cut off from light, sound and life. Back at Sheffield University, Steph has finished the facial reconstruction of the skull.
This is what she would have looked like.
What starts out as a skull but ends up looking almost like Tina Turner.
Gradually you have this person looking back at you, and I feel like I know her quite intimately because I've been staring at her face for so many hours now.
So for someone who knew her, this would be something they could recognise her from?
Yes, it won't be an exact likeness, but it would be enough for someone that knew her to recognise her.
Back on the hillside, deep in the Dales, the cave is covered over, disguised with earth and rock, a natural barrier against disruption from man or beast.
I'm glad we came back, had another look, but also I'm glad we've closed it all up, and it's all still here under the fell side.
To be honest, at one time I thought we'd never do it, but I'm just glad it's done, and it's really fitting that it's 10 years afterwards.
Despite all the advances in modern technology, there are just some things about this woman we can never know, but perhaps some things should remain a mystery.